Hey everybody, and welcome to our early comics review video. I'm Andy.
I'm Matt.
We're here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and this is our longer show where we show you some of the biggest and best books that are coming out this week to your local comic book store, whether that be Infinity Flux here surrounding us right now, or infinityflux.net, which is like this store but exists on the
Online.
It's
Yeah,
where the characters from Reboot
Yeah,
shop.
right. It's on the line.
It's on the line. You can go there right now and get these books while supplies last, or come in the store while supplies last. It means the same thing for both. But we've got some amazing books this week. It was such a big week.
Yep.
We've got books that we really wanted to read and didn't even get a chance to read, but we're still going to show off a lot of those too. But some of the biggest heavy hitters this week, and I'm going to start it off this week with Batman, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, #1. So this is been a long time coming. This was originally planned with the original creators of Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, to follow up from Long Halloween, Dark Victory, the Catwoman one, all of that. Unfortunately, a few years ago, Tim Sale passed, and this book was definitely up in the air if it would continue. But this is a beautiful kind of love letter to Tim Sale, to the Long Halloween universe, all of that. So our first issue here is written, like all of them, by Jeff Loeb. The art is by Eduardo Risso, with colors by Dave Stewart, and lettering by Richard Starkings, our very own friend and patron of the
Infinity
store.
Flux's very own Richard Starkings.
Yeah, and I also cat sit for him. So, good friend. And he had a big hand in kind of the crafting of this, and was, best friends with Tim Sale. So this is definitely kind of a labor of love for that. But this is really cool. So we're returning to the world of the Long Halloween, and if you've read Long Halloween, you know what that feels like.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very claustrophobic Gotham. It's a very, if you took some of like Silver Age Batman, but infused some of like the Dark Knight elements of just like, this is way more crime than like super colorful villains.
It's not a fantastical book whatsoever. It's and that's why it's one of my favorite stories, is because it is so focused on a mystery, detective work, that kind of thing.
Yeah, this is your quintessential Batman who is a detective.
Yeah.
So in this, a few years have passed since Long Halloween. The events, like a year long, where there was someone murdered on each holiday, and Batman could not figure out who was doing it. I don't want to give away the ending of Long Halloween, because I think it's still, a fantastic read, and everyone should go out and pick it up. I would say read it before you read this if you haven't read it, because it does refer to the mystery from Long Halloween. But some years have passed, and Two-Face and his wife Gilda are in hiding, or it's Glinda. I switched the two letters. Glinda are in hiding, and Batman. I can't remember. Did Batman have Robin at any point during Dark Victory or any of those?
Not in Long Halloween. I think he did in. Did he? I don't remember if he had him in Dark Victory. I think he did. It was definitely in that one shot that came out a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So that's a big part of this is Batman and Robin. And Robin has only been with Batman a short amount of time. You can tell because their relationship is a little strained. It's a little. Batman doesn't know if he can fully trust Robin, given the kind of work they do, and he's often correcting him or being like, okay, now you need to go back to the manor because this is beyond you.
And that's interesting because we're going to get that Batman and Robin Year 1 series coming out very soon too, which is more early Batman and Robin stuff, and it's, they're going to have to focus on being father and son, and also Batman and Robin. And
you get a bit of that in here where, that you can tell it's the early relationship, and it's funny. At one point it's raining, and Dick Grayson Robin is like, I really should have thought about pants with this suit and stuff. It's really cool. But something happens, and on Halloween, it seems like some events that copy some of the original events of Long Halloween start happening, that makes Batman start thinking there's a copycat killer to the holiday killer from before. One of the things that happens is Jim Gordon and his wife are out trick-or-treating with their son James, and James goes missing. and then there's a scene with Catwoman where something happens, and there's a calling card left, not by Catwoman, by somebody else. That's very reminiscent of a classic Long Halloween thing, and this definitely, Batman then to Robin is like, okay, this is big league stuff, and Robin's like, I read the file on the Holiday Killer and all that. And Batman's like, this is too big for you. So I think part of the story is going to be, I think even an issue that was just solicited talked about Robin kind of taking matters into his own hands when Batman won't let him be involved as much as he wants. So I feel like part of this is going to be that relationship, and part of it's going to be what is this just a copycat killer? Is it one of the original killers? We don't know. But you do see some characters at the end of this that raise a lot of questions to who might be behind these disappearances and these murders and all of that. So really, really cool. Great to be back in this world. I love the tone of it. Eduardo Rosso art is very reminiscent of Tim Sale's.
Yeah.
Of course, the Dave Stewart coloring is a big part of that. Richard Starkton's lettering is a big part of that. It's all the things that get you back into that world. There's some great backup stuff in this with some more art from Tim Sale that he did. Like this cover is, I think some of them were commissions he did. All of that they've pulled out and put together to keep him still part of this series. But everyone should pick this up. It's a big deal. This started back, I believe, in 1994 was the original Long Halloween.
Yeah, 90. I thought it was 95. Maybe?
It might have been 95, but it was right around there. And so this has been going on for almost 30 years. So just, if you've read Long Halloween, definitely get this. You will not be disappointed. Here is your A cover by Tim Sale. Of course, we've got some great variants and some very thoughtful variants. They didn't just throw stuff together. So this is going to be a series of variants done by the interior artist doing a cover where they're all kind of this police lineup. So this cover is by Eduardo Rizzo. We also have, of course, a Jim Lee cover, which I believe Jim Lee is doing a cover for each of these as well. We've got a foil Jim Lee cover. We've got I forgot what the incentive of this is, but this is kind of the virgin copy for $11.99 of the Rizzo cover. And we have I think this was a 1 in 50 Tim Sale virgin variant for it, $24.99.
All right. Well, I'm going to start with Wolverine Revenge #2 because the first issue was awesome. I know a lot of people like this book. I love it. Written by Jonathan Hickman, art by Greg Capullo. Sells itself. I could stop right there and you would still want to buy it. So after the horrific events of the last issue, Wolverine is very appropriately out for revenge. Hey, that's where the title comes from, I guess. And his targets are Sabretooth, Omega Red, Deadpool, Colossus, and Mastermind. And to track them down, he actually reaches out to a very familiar character for help. It was a character that I was not expecting to see in this book, but it makes total sense why he reached out to
him. I would reach out if I had any problem.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they could solve it.
Yeah, it's like, why do more heroes not reach out to that character for help? So yeah, Wolverine reaches out to this character to get help tracking these villains down. And he does confront 2 of his targets in this issue. I won't say which ones, and I won't tell you how it goes with them, but I will tell you that we do get some very awesome, bloody, violent action in Greg Capullo just pulling out all the stops, with everything we see there. I do think that like I said, I thought this issue was just as good as the first one. I love that it's telling its own story because this is very much out of continuity with any other Marvel book. So you can read this free and clear of anything else, and I love that because this takes some big swings.
Yeah.
And I love that it's not hamstrung by we gotta stay with the From the Ashes stuff. No, none of that. It's doing its own thing because this is exactly how I want to see Wolverine act. The way he acts in this, that's exactly how I feel Wolverine should be. So yeah, just another great issue of Wolverine Revenge. If you liked the first one, you are definitely going to like the second one there. So there's our A cover, and we have some cool variants. We have this Rose Beige variant. We've got the Platt variant. That looks really cool. And we have the red band variant. So, real quick, the differences between the regular version and the red band version, there are 2 extra pages in this that are not in this. One of them is a full, just a single splash page of Wolverine doing something. And the other one is actually a page that contains more of one of the fight scenes, more panels of Wolverine fighting the character
I
that he's
actually
fighting in
like
this.
that more than even the splash page.
Yes.
'Cause I felt like, I was like, oh, this is, it's a thing in a fight that gets a little bit nittier and grittier.
Yeah, for sure. And outside of those 2 extra pages in this, a lot of the panels in those fight scenes are just bloodier. They have more blood splatter on them. It's the same images, but where Wolverine, like his cowl in the regular one, it's just yellow. In this one, there's blood splatter all over it. So appropriately, you do get a little bit more violence with the Red Man version, but it is $1 more, so you'll have to figure out if that extra violence and those 2 extra pages are worth the extra $1 for you. But yeah, I liked the extra page that had all the extra fighting too, because it's a whole sequence of fighting. It's almost like editing a movie. We don't need to show this part of the fight. We'll take that out. Well, it is in here, and it's really, really cool. So red band version there. And then we have this 1 in 25. Is this Alessandro? Is that Capuccio?
I believe so.
Yeah, 1 in 25 that we're selling for $24.99.
Yeah, there's a few panels that are different art wise,
Mhm.
but like the first one, we kind of looked at it and we're like, well, that one is worse than the one in the
Yeah.
red band. It's kind of hard to tell why they chose some things over other
Yeah, there's
things.
definitely still some very bloody, violent panels in the regular version too. So you are still going to get some good, comic booky violence. It's just the red band version has even more of it.
Yeah. Okay, next up, we have Lilith #1. This is a new book from Vault, and it is written and drawn by Corin Howell, who I really like. Worked on, did some covers, I think, for Barbaric.
Okay.
And some of that. But this is a mature title, and it is violent and over the top and perfect for this time of year because this is about Lilith, the titular character. She is a model. We kind of get an opening scene where she's at a photo shoot. She's modeling, and the photographer is just being terrible to her, being like, "Your face is terrible."
I hear that so often.
Your poses are terrible. I don't want to work with you anymore. All of that. And even her manager's like, you really need this job. Like, you should really, play into it. Well, it works out, and the manager convinces her to make it up to the photographer by going over to his house, where he wants more than just to take pictures. And that's where we learned that Lilith is not only a model, but a human eating demon.
Oh.
And so she's kind of okay with taking out the bad guys. But when I say she eats them, it's not just quick. Like, she sits down at a table and eats them.
Oh, okay.
So it is pretty gruesome, but in a very, she's being very proper and, has a handkerchief dabbing her mouth and stuff while she eats these people. And she also has a amulet, and when she uses it, a kind of astral cat appears that has, the same gem on its forehead and stuff, named Gordy, that finishes off the bones and all that's left. And now it's like a cat where it's jaw unhinges and it just eats it.
You really shouldn't give your pets table scraps.
No. No, definitely not. And not these for sure, especially those big rib bones and stuff. But we do also learn that Lilith, being a demon though, is bound to Earth. And that's why she had to get a job and all of that kind of stuff. And she wants to get out. Well, at one point, something happens and is saved, which she doesn't need saving, but there's another character named Penelope who runs by and thinks she needs saving and is a really talkative character and is like, oh, I'm going to take care of you after what just happened. And she owns a bookstore where Lilith might find something that will help her leave Earth and get back to, I guess, hell where she's from. She doesn't say it, but very interesting beginning of this kind of earthbound demon who eats people trying to get home. It's just like Quantum Leap.
Yeah, exactly like Quantum Leap. No differences whatsoever.
But I thought it was really cool. It is very mature. It's very bloody. It's all of that, but it's a really cool concept with fantastic art. So I highly recommend it. this is your A cover, and it's all black, white, and red.
Oh, okay.
And in a really cool way, it does that. So that is your A cover. And we got something special with this one as well. So this is the Jay Lee variant. And if you go to our website right now, you can get this cover for $1.50 off.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like $3.49,
Yeah.
something like that. So we're running a special sale on this cover.
You don't need a coupon code or anything. It's already priced that way.
It's already priced that way. It's a great jumping on point. If you're just considering it, you can get it for, what a comic cost a few years ago.
20 years ago, right?
20 years ago. So don't miss out on that. And we've got that great deal for this Jay Lee cover. We also have a really nice Zoe Thorogood cover. We have, this one's super cool. This is the homage cover for Chainsaw Man.
Yeah.
I guess where she's Power.
Yeah, I believe so.
But very cool one there. We've got two black bag variants. So we have one by Corin Howe. So it's a little bit spicier, maybe a little bloodier underneath it. And we have the Zoe Thorogood cover, but with less, if you know what I mean, wink. And then we've got a couple of incentives. So we've got this 1 in 5 Vile Vice cosplay cover for $9.99. We've got this Tula Lotte variant. This is a 1 in 10 for $9.99. And we have a 1 in 15 Tula Lotte Virgin variant for $12.99. Oh, and I've got one more.
Oh, no.
I've got one more. This is a 1 in 25 of that Jay Lee cover for $34.99.
That is a lot of choices.
So many choices.
Something for everybody.
Something for everyone, as long as it's this.
Right. All right. Well, I am going to talk about the Lobo Cancellation Special because this book was fantastic. This is written by Kyle Starks and the art is by Kyle Hotz. Now, this is a one-shot. I would love for this to go to a, follow the Poison Ivy Green Arrow path of miniseries, limited series, ongoing series. But this is great. So, at its core, this is a story about Lobo doing whatever it takes to save a young girl, but it's a lot funnier and violent, more violent than that. So I read a note that this book is so violent that if Marvel published it, it would be red banned. Like this is, there's all kinds of dismemberment and blood and things like that. I got to talk at the beginning of the book. Lobo is stranded on this planet that only has one small village left because he killed everyone else on the planet, and now he's stuck there. And that doesn't really have anything to do with the main story, but it's a sequence that's several pages long, and it's so funny. The people there in the village that are left, they are not shy about telling him how miserable he makes their lives and how they wish he would kill them just so they don't have to live with him anymore. Because he monologues, like we find out how he got to that point through his monologue, and they say, oh, he's gonna monologue this, right? He's like, yeah, just the way he does every day. And they just very bluntly tell him, and it's very dry humor, which I love. They're like, you are the single biggest bane to our existence. Our lives are infinitely more terrible because you are in them, that kind of thing. It's really funny. But eventually a spaceship arrives that has a few members of another alien species, and they ask for his help finding a young girl. It's the daughter of, I don't know if he's like the leader of this species or whatever, but she is the daughter of one of those aliens on the ship. And they say, we need your help finding my daughter because you're like one of the biggest and baddest bounty hunters around, and she has been taken by another big bad villain named Murder Crotch Slaughterface. He's one of the most dangerous villains in the galaxy. And Lobo does agree to do this, but first he needs to go to the bar that he was at where he lost his bike and his clothes because he had been stranded on that planet for like 6 years or something like that. And he went back to this bar the last time he was there. And that's a very funny sequence. It's very violent. It leads to a big barroom brawl scene, but in the style of Lobo. And it's really funny. And then he does eventually face off against Murder Crotch Slaughterface. and it's also very violent. And I won't tell you how it all plays out, but it does wrap up by the end because again, this is just a one shot. But this issue is silly and ridiculous in all of the best ways possible. It's extremely fun, and like I said, I would love to see this get turned into an ongoing series with the same trappings. You know, still Kyle Starks. He's got a great mind for this. Kyle Hotz, his artwork on this is fantastic.
Feels a lot like Bisley back
Yeah.
when Bisley was the artist on Lobo.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's absolutely great. So if you're a Lobo fan, I'm very very familiar and aware of Lobo. I didn't read much Lobo back in the '90s at the height of his popularity, and I'm like, if I want to go read more of that because this did felt like what I read of it back then. Just a fantastic, fantastic one shot, and it is oversized too. I'm not sure how many pages. It's a $5.99 book. I want to say it's maybe a 40-page book, so it's a little bit bigger than your standard book. Very fun, very violent. I highly recommend it if you just like good fun, comic books that have good action but also humor, not over the not like crazy humor, but it's just everything about it's great. So there's our A cover right there, and we have this Simon Bisley variant right there. So it feels very much like that era. And then there is I'm not sure what ratio this is, but this is the 24.99 Virgin variant.
Very cool. Yeah, I love the original logo on it. Everything. It feels like, okay, this is ready just to be its own series.
The only thing it needs is the bullet logo.
Oh,
it
was so close.
It's so close to getting that bullet logo. But yeah, this is just it's great. It's absolutely great.
Well, next up for me, something I thought was absolutely great is Turtles and Grayskull. Number 1, this is a new miniseries from Tim Seeley and Freddie Williams II. And this is super cool. So it is, that was, I believe, your same creative team that did the He-Man Thundercats crossover.
Didn't
which
they do
was also
Turtles and Batman too, right?
Yes. Yep, the Turtles and Batman. So they worked together a lot on this. And this one is so good. So in this, it really gets going right away because it begins, the Turtles are already in Eternia. And we get kind of just a flashback as they're calling back home to Shredder, or to Splinter and April about how they got there. Because Shredder and Krang were making some weird deal with what they said was a skeleton-faced, like dark mage or something like that.
Like demon or something, yeah.
And they're trading ooze for dark magic and all that. They tried to intervene, but got sucked through the portal and found themselves in Eternia. And the other thing that happened is when they got there, He-Man was missing.
Yep.
So the Turtles decide, they basically say it's like part of their code that they will help the Masters of the Universe find He-Man.
Yeah, like the Bushido Code or something.
Yeah. It's really cool because now that this transaction has been taking place between the two worlds, the Eternia and Skeletor has the mutagen, and he's been using it on his henchmen. So you've got Merman and Beastman, and all of those have transformed into even more monstrous versions of themselves. And there's a lot of fun. It's not all mashup. It's not all like, oh, it's this character and this character. It's some like you can see hints of other characters.
Yeah, it's just barbarian versions of, like the Ninja Turtles aren't mashed up with anybody, but they are wearing like a Ram Man helmet or, a Man-at-Arms armor, that kind of thing.
Yeah, they get more like suited up
Yeah.
For that. You can see even Michelangelo gets a blonde wig to look more like He-Man and everything. This was so much fun, and there was a twist at the end that if you are a longtime reader of Ninja Turtles, even back from the Mirage days, there's something that happens that is a pretty significant
like a callback to that.
But it's going to be part of the story that is going to be really, really cool. So if this is so much action, there's so many like 2-page spreads of all the characters jumping each other, and you just see all the characters in the background that, all the Masters of the Universe are in the background, and it's just full of characters, full of fun, and Freddie Williams' art is so perfect for this. They look like big, beefy action figures.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
And it's fantastic. So I highly recommend this. Plus, it does have some character concepts in the back where you see sketches of them, and they're so highly detailed and everything. It's so, so cool. This has probably been one of my favorite Master Universe comics that's come out in a long time.
It's my childhood in one book.
Yeah, and it's you look down in your toy box and this is essentially what was going on down there. So fantastic first issue. We've got some variants for this one as well. So we have this Zerit variant with, of course, the Roton and the Turtle Van, which is really cool.
Sadly, the Roton was not in the book.
No, but hopefully soon. Hopefully those two have like a weird mashup or something. The He-Man van or something.
Yeah.
He-Van. And we also have the Stan Sakai variant.
Somebody should make a movie about toys that come to life when the kid's not around.
Just tell a story.
Yeah, just tell a story about toys. That'd be really cool. All right, so next up, I've got the Manchurian #1. This is written by Pornsak Pesciashot, and the art is by Terry Dodson. Now, this book is the first issue in a series of books known as the Horizon Experiment. You can see it on the bottom right there. So what these Horizon Experiment books are, there are 5 different one-shots, completely unrelated to each other, that features a protagonist from a marginalized community, but in the put in like a popular genre. So in this one, we have this guy right here. He is a Chinese man named Calvin Lowe, but he is a very James Bond type character. I want to say the next one is like a they say, and this isn't my words. This is on the inside cover. There's like 5 bullets, and I think the second was like a Muslim John Constantine type character. And there's like the last one I think is like they said it's like a reverse Indiana Jones, that kind of thing. So that's what these books are, and
they're not related.
They're not related to each other at all, but the potential is there for them to get their own books. But this issue in particular is about, again, a Chinese James Bond type character named Calvin Lowe. He is a Manchu, which is basically a secret agent that's assigned to protect Chinese spies, and he works for this secret organization, that kind of thing.
Like a spy that protects spies.
I guess so, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And he is protecting a woman named Jillian who works for this large corporation, but they believe that she is selling their secrets to a competitor, and he has to protect her while trying. There's like frame jobs and all this kind of stuff. I will say there is a lot of characters in this story, and you see a lot of faces, and they do have the names underneath, but then you don't see them again. It's like one page and then they're gone. I'm like, it was kind of hard to keep up with all the different characters right at first, but at the end you see how it all, like, these seemingly random scenes all come back together, and then it's like, that's when it gets its hooks in you. It's really well done, and it is a one and done. So this story does wrap up, but with the way it ends, it could very easily continue from this story into more stories and adventures. So yeah, really, really cool. Really cool concept. And it'll be cool to read all of the other ones. I wish I could remember all of them. I should have written them down. But on the inside cover is an explanation about what all this is. And it does have 5 bullets telling you what they are, what each book is going to be like. But yeah, it was really cool.
Terry Dodson's art is perfect for this too.
Mm-hmm.
It captures that, like, the classic James Bond poolside scenes and all of that kind of cool stuff.
Yeah, because it does show him, seducing a couple of women, and it's not creepy or anything. It's very suave, just like James Bond would do. And he does one, because like at the very beginning of the book, he's with this woman poolside, and it gives you her name, and they're having a great time, and then just kind of off to the side, you see her brother. And it has his name at the bottom, and and it says of the very disapproving brother, and that's the last you see of him. I'm like, well, that was weird. But by the time you get to the end of the book, you realize why you saw that, and there was an explanation for that whole scene, and it's so well done. So yeah, I highly recommend this book if you if you're into that kind of story. I love spy espionage type stuff, and I would love to see this continue because I thought it was great. So there is our A cover right there, and we have this Tula Lotte variant.
And I believe those are going to be connecting, which is weird because all the books are so different and such wild different styles.
Yeah.
But I think those are going to be a connecting cover.
Very cool. Yeah, highly recommended.
Okay, next up, I've got Violent Flowers. This is written and drawn by Maria Levitt, like a lot of her stuff is, and this is going to be a 4-issue miniseries. And this definitely falls into the like dark romance, supernatural genre I don't want to relate it to Twilight, even though I have nothing wrong with Twilight, but it kind of fits in that supernatural romance horror genre. So it does begin in the 17th century, where a group of vampires sentence another vampire to drown for all eternity. Because I guess they can't really die, so she's basically put in a cage and dropped to the bottom of the ocean, and they still feel the feelings of like drowning, but can't die. So she's just like forced to eternally drown.
Yeah, that reminds me of one of the stories in the Cruel Universe book, where this guy finds a fountain of youth in a cave, but then the cave collapses.
Oh,
he drinks it and he can live forever, but then the cave collapses and his face gets stuck in the water. And he can't. He's drowning for pretty much forever.
That's like their play for this. And we don't know fully why this woman is condemned to that. But her name is Erzabet. But the other vampires around her are really cool looking. You can tell they're all from different times. They're all kind of have different. Some look almost Roman and all of that. But this is kind of a whole coven of vampires. But then we jump forward to the 21st century, where all these vampires are gathering again because one of their own has been killed. He's a guy who, for them, they called the Sentinel, because his job was to keep the peace and kind of watch over all of the supernatural beings of the world. They make reference of like, because it's just the vampires there, and one of them says, "What about the wolves and the witches?" And they're like, "This is a family matter. We're not bringing them into it." So clearly it's a very supernatural world with a lot of classic characters. But the sister of the one that's been murdered shows up, and her name is Cornelia, and she looks like an old woman, but that's because she has refused to drink blood or do anything like that. She's been in the sun, so she appears that way. But since her brother has been killed, she has decided to retake her power and all of that, and kind of swears that she will find who did this. And she thinks maybe it's tied in with that original person because of the way they found her brother's body. This is really cool. It's very moody, and if you know Maria Levitt's stuff, it's very dark, very sexy, and it's a little like Interview with a Vampire mixed with a couple other things. But the styles of the vampires are really cool. Like I said, they're all very different. I think someone sees them and says, "Oh, aren't you like the fashion designer, like a current day fashion designer?" But then there's one vampire that's wearing like gold armor that has snakes constantly over her shoulders.
Okay.
And it almost is very like Medusa looking. It's all really, really cool. But it is a very mature book, and it does seem like it's gonna, be very violent as she goes kind of on her rampage to find out who killed her brother. So I really recommend it if that's your thing. You definitely know by the genre and everything if it's going to be for you. But I really liked it. Like all of Maria Levitt's stuff, I thought it was really cool and really original. But you've got your A cover right here. We also have a Vecchio variant. And a Mirka and Dolfo variant.
Nice. Well, we've got Creepshow Volume 3, Number 1. Creepshow is back for another series of books, and I am so excited. But I do have to be honest, I actually haven't read this yet. We did not get some of our books until today, so I did not have a chance to read this yet. But I wanted to go ahead and talk about it now because I love Creepshow. I loved every issue of both volumes that have been out so far. I have no doubt that this is going to be good too. Just like all the other books, we do get 2 stories in this, just quick one and dones that are unrelated to anything else. The first one is called Letter Trip, written by Chip Zdarsky with art by Kagan McLeod. And then the other story is called Scrimshaw, written and drawn by James Stokoe. I did flip through it though, and it looks appropriately creepy. Yeah. This is out just in time for spooky season. In fact, I actually might buy this on Wednesday and wait till it turns October to read it. I don't think I'll be able to though, because I love it so much. But yeah, definitely just wanted to go ahead and tell you that Creepshow is back. I know we have a lot of Creepshow fans out there, and just want to make sure that you didn't miss this brand new issue that is coming out on Wednesday. So there is our A cover right there, and then we have this really cool James Stokoe variant.
Next up, I have Spawn Violator #1. This is by Mark Andrecko, and the art is by Peter Kowalski. And what's interesting about this, we mentioned it on one of our previous shows, the scheduling got messed up for this one. So the C cover, which was the Todd McFarlane variant, came out last week. So you may have already picked this up, but if you subscribe to the series, this is the A cover, and so it comes out this week. And it wasn't like one was, didn't ship or something. They have separate release dates. Don't know why, just something weird that happens on occasion. But I wanted to talk about this one since it kind of feels like the technical release date with the A cover. But I thought this was super cool. So this is going to be, I believe he says a 6 issue because Violator narrates this, and he's like, I guess you're here for 6 stories.
Yeah, it says 1 of 6 right there.
Yeah. But it's narrated by Violator as you know him, like where he looks like this, and he's telling his own origin. If you can believe it or not, he might,
He might be a bit of an unreliable narrator.
Yeah, just a little bit. But this starts all the way back at the beginning of him because he was an angel named Baziel, and this tells the story of how he was swayed by Lucifer and was convinced that the Creator was creating mankind to replace the angels, and slowly started like seeding those ideas in his mind and building up a group of like-minded angels. And you see how his relationship with a relationship that he is supposed to, it's kind of like marry or become one or something like that, that they were preordained to become. That becomes strained and all of that, which eventually leads to the angels' rebellion in heaven against the Creator and the fall of Violator to Earth, where he becomes this creature. And you see the whole thing happen. It's really, really interesting. I believe it's an oversized first issue because there was a lot of story in it. I thought it was great. The art, it really does a good job with the ethereal feeling of it. There's no like architecture in this. Everything is in some kind of void with weird shapes, and you see them crafting things, and all of that is really cool. The angels all have like these skin tight, maybe suits, or maybe it's their bodies that have these intricate patterns on them. It was overall really, really cool. You couldn't really tell it was a Spawn book till you got to the very end. It just seemed like a really interesting telling of the fall of the angels. But I highly recommend it if you are a Spawn fan or you're looking for something new and interesting to read. Each issue is going to be done by a different creator. I know a different artist with the same writer, but we've got one coming up that's he runs into like a Viking Spawn.
Oh, that's number 2. Yeah,
number 2. So this is going to be a really cool series to follow. Highly recommend this one. And since the other variants came out on a different day, I only have the A cover to show right here.
Well, I've got Uncanny X-Men. Not volume. Uncanny X-Men number 3.
Yeah, tell me what.
Yeah, I don't know.
X-Men
I have no
this?
idea. Gail Simone, David Marquez doing work on this. So this issue furthers the mystery of these young new mutants that popped up at the very end of issue 1 that we interacted more with in issue number 2. So the mystery with them deepens here, and we also, I was gonna say we also find out more about Sarah, but we don't. But the mystery with her deepens too.
Yeah, we see more of Sarah, just not a lot of explanation.
Yeah, more questions and answers. But she does a couple weird things in this. That it's like, how can she do that? I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I will say that one of the X-Men leaves the team in this issue, although it might be just temporary. But we do get Nightcrawler. He pops up to help train these young new mutants. They're very powerful, but they're also very experienced. We do get, and a lot of this issue is that training session. We do get a brief origin and explanation for each one of them, who they are, kind of sort of what their powers are, but I still didn't understand a couple of them. It was still a little bit confusing, so hopefully that'll be fleshed out over the course of the next couple issues. But yeah, so it's just more, more time spent with these young new mutants, and we see, the different subplots that we've seen so far. We see like more of each one of those too, and I'm sure eventually they're going to come back around and all connect with each other. So yeah, I'm enjoying the series still quite a bit, but there's just a lot of moving parts. And I
This
have
does feel like the kind of densest and most like uh the series, like the regular X-Men series has a lot of story progression.
yeah.
This has multiple stories progressing.
Yeah, and we know they're related, but we just don't know how. Like, I just have so many questions and zero answers to any of those questions. But I feel like when we do get those answers, it'll all like we'll be able to look back at this and say, oh, that's why that happened and that happened. So it'll be very cool to see when that all comes out. But obviously, it looks great.
Yeah.
I'm just happy to have Nightcrawler because he plays a large role in this.
He's the classic fun Nightcrawler.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just bamfing everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. So just more really good Uncanny X-Men stuff right there. There's our A cover, and then I love this cover. This is our Asrar variant featuring Nightcrawler, and then we have this really cool Vecchio Jubilee cover. These have all been really good.
Yeah.
And then we have this 1 in 25 Michael Cho variant that we're selling for $14.99.
Yeah, I really liked it. It's fun to see this team of X-Men or former X-Men or whatever try to rebuild what they once had, but with not as much resources.
Right.
So they're trying to train a new group of mutants, but they just don't quite have the facility to accompany that.
Yeah, Rogue is very adamant. She's like, this is what we do. We help mutants, and that's what we're going to keep doing.
Yeah, Rogue is so great.
Yes.
It's really cool. Okay, I've got another new book from Magma Comics. This is Hell's Half Acre #1. Talked about this for a while. This is written by Denton J. Tipton, and art is by Jack Jadson. And I'll say, I read this, but I wish I could read this slower. We had a lot of stuff to read. There's a lot of kind of characters. It's one of those where you get a first little bit with one character, and you get a second little bit with another character, and by the end, they're all kind of pulled to one location. But I wish I could really like see how each of those, what their full stories were and everything. But this is set in Nashville in 1904, and I know that what the solicitation was about a place called Hell's Half Acre, where it's crime and debauchery and all of that goes on here, but it kind of in this one just felt like a classic Western town.
Okay.
Where we've got our key characters. So there is a sheriff, a kind of smooth talking gambler, and some of the ladies that work at the saloon. All of those are all pulled together. Where, like in any classic saloon scene, there's gonna be a fight. Somebody's gonna get mad at somebody because they think they're hiding cards up their sleeve, and there's gonna be a big brawl. Well, something happens. And it's not just a brawl breaks out. Something bigger happens that puts everyone at risk. And it may have something to do with a mysterious stranger that appeared in one of the rooms that may not be from this earth, from this plane of existence. It was definitely like a pretty straightforward Western story that was really good. The art is really, really good. It's kind of one of your dense Westerns, which I like, with a lot of characters. And at the end, there was certain things that really spun it.
Okay.
And so I thought it was really cool. I want to read it slower, and kind of, now that I know the direction it's going, kind of understand how the pieces are moving and all of that. But I recommend it if you like Westerns with a little twist to them, that kind of stuff. You'll definitely like Hell's Half Acre. And we've got a variant for this one. This is, speaking of Eduardo Risso, this is an Eduardo Risso variant.
Nice. All right, well, I've got Phases of the Moon Knight #2, and just like the first issue, this tells two, brief one-and-done stories. The first one is called Nighttime in the City, written by Jed McKay, and the art is by Jorge Fornes. And the first thing, I'm gonna show you the title page to this, because the very first thing you notice is how it looks. It's done up to look like a comic from the 80s, right here, with the big title. And I don't know if you can see, so the whole thing is done with a lot of duotone, and the pages are yellowed, or faux yellowed, like, or not even really yellow, off-white, to make it look like just a sort of old 70s or 80s comic that you would find in the back issue bin. And just the whole thing was like that. And I thought I would love if the main, I love the main Moon Knight series, but I would love it if it looked like that, because it was just strikingly, like, the visualness of it was very striking. So This is and this story is actually set back in Moon Knight's earlier days. He's still Frenchie is still around. They still have the moon copter and that kind of thing. And he's tracking down a killer who has killed 4 plastic surgeons so far and has his sights set on the 5th one. And pretty much this whole story is Moon Knight fighting this villain while this mystery villain tells him who he is and why he's doing this. And I won't spoil how any of that goes or who this character is, but this is a pre-existing character that has appearances in some old Marvel UK books. And I'm not sure if he ever popped up in like in an issue of Moon Knight from the '80s, but he has some appearances in like some Hulk books from the '80s, but under the Marvel UK imprint. So it's really cool. It's kind of a deep well to go back to. And then the second story is called Eclipsis, and it's written by Declan Shalvey. The art is by Eder Messias, and it's set in the year 2846. So it's a futuristic Moon Knight, and that futuristic Moon Knight battles this cult of Khonshu. And you would think that Khonshu, he's still around. You think he'd be all for that, but he tells Moon Knight that they aren't worthy of worshiping him. So Moon Knight has to fight this big cult, and he has to go to some pretty great extremes to defeat them. But it was really cool. The design that's the futuristic Moon Knight on the bottom there. So yeah, just a really cool, 2 short stories, complete one and dones. They're not connected to anything. You could pick this up and read it on its own. But that first story, I love the way it looks. Like I felt like I was reading one of my old back issues. So there's your A cover right there. And we have this Wu Chol variant with your new Moon Knight. I think his name was Soul, Sol, Soul. And then here is a design variant for that new futuristic Moon Knight. So this is his first appearance technically. I don't know if we'll ever see him again, but this is the first time he shows up in a comic.
Very cool. Next up, I've got Frankenstein, or Universal Monsters Frankenstein, issue 2. I love the first issue of this. I thought it really captured the classic Universal Monsters Frankenstein movie. The first one focuses on the hands of Frankenstein. This one is called The Brain of a Killer. This focuses on the story of the brain of Frankenstein, although it's a little bit less about that than the first one was about the hands. But we do see, in the classic story in the movie, Fritz, the assistant, drops the good brain and gets the brain of a killer instead to put in Frankenstein. But we see the 2 brains before they were in jars, and them interacting. One was a criminal and one was a police officer, and then how they got to being there. And then it goes on where most of this issue is about Fritz and Dr. Frankenstein really talking down to him, and him really wanting to get the recognition he thinks he deserves. Like one of the people who came through that Dr. Frankenstein was showing his creation to stays behind after they leave, and basically tells Fritz of like, you didn't go to school anywhere. What's your training for this? You're not worthy. The doctor needs somebody who is a well-learned man and not you. So Fritz is a little bit more he's angry in this one, and we see what happens because of that. Plus, this does follow up the story from the child from the first one who snuck into Frankenstein's castle, and his story continues in here, where he was the son of the man who had the hands that are now Frankenstein's monster's hands. So, really great issue. Declan Shalvey has such a great knack for this tone. It's almost like a little bit of a one and done story, but also with this like through line of the classic story of Frankenstein. So looking forward to the next one. I love this one. That is your A cover. We also have this Del Mundo variant, which is really cool. We've got a incentive for the Del Mundo. This one is $24.99, so it's like a black and white version. And then we have this fantastic Francavilla incentive that we're selling for $14.99. Get Francavilla on one of the appearance of these books.
Yeah, holy cow. All right, well, I've got a new book from Mad Cave. This is called Revolution 9. This is written by Mark London. The art is by Carlos Reno. And this is about this woman right here. She is an assassin named Velveteen. She works with this shadowy group known as the Order of Nine. And she has been tasked with killing a hacker named Jasper Dean. He found some computer files that maybe he shouldn't have found. So it's your classic story of that, right? Well, during the mission, she goes out to kill this guy. However, she actually saves his life, and instead she kills the backup team that was sent to take her out in case she didn't follow orders, because the people running the organization had a feeling she might not follow orders on this one. And it's a little unclear why at first, but by the time you get to the end, it all makes sense. And a lot of this issue is just them kind of on the run, trying to stay one step ahead of this organization because they have more assassins, and they are able to find some safe haven for a while. And that, like I said, that's when Velveteen tells Jasper why she's doing all this. It's actually pretty twisted. This organization made her do something without against her knowledge, and now she wants revenge on them basically, and she's going to need Jasper's help to do it. So yeah, cool new another kind of spy espionage type story. And it's some good action. I like the artwork. This was a really cool, fun read. So this is our A cover, and that's the only one we've got.
Well, next up, I've got Predator versus Black Panther #2. This one continues the story now that Wakanda has been kind of locked down in a dome. Some people are stuck inside of it, some people outside of it, but it's become a perfect hunting ground for the Predator. We have the Dora Milaje who go up against a Predator, and it seems like they are fantastic warriors and everything. But can they stand up to the might of multiple Predators now that they're making their way there? Plus, Black Panther awakens after what happened in the previous issue, and he finds some of the wreckage from what has just happened with the Dora Milaje's fight with the Predators, and it's not looking good for all of Wakanda. Plus, the Predators are getting closer to finding the vibranium.
Yeah.
And when they do, they're going to be able to use it and be pretty unstoppable. So, a lot of fun stuff happens in this issue. As we move through our Predator versus Black Panther, that is your A cover. We also have a doily variant. We have a Rose Besh variant. And lastly, we have a 1 in 25 variant that we are selling for in $19.99.
Well, I've got X-Force #3 right here, and in this one, Forge's analog device, that little orb that he built, it leads them to Cambodia to deal with another fracture node, is what they call them. These events that, if not taken care of, could end up destroying the world. And it's funny because nobody knows they're doing this either.
Yeah.
It's like a Black Ops saving the world thing. Well, when they get there, they see a giant being known as Nuclo, and he's not a new character. He's been around before, but he's huge, right? He's a big kaiju-sized character. And he's walking through the city, just leaving complete devastation in his wake. But Forge is really confused because Nuclo is right there in front of him. However, the analog says that the fracture node is actually about 100 miles north of where they are. So maybe they're in the wrong place. But they know they have to stop Nuclo. So Tank and Betsy and Rachel, they jump out of the ship to try to take him on. Surge helps some people on the ground, and Forge and Sage stay back to try to figure out what the heck is going on with all of this. And it's cool. At one point, Rachel and Betsy, they attempt a psychic attack. They attempt to attack him, psychically, and they see his psychic defenses, and it's a cool little sequence. I like what they showed there. And I won't tell you how it all plays out, but I will say this is the first issue of this series that is not a one and done. So this continues on into issue #4. And I really want to read that one because we saw the cover for issue #4. I mean, the solicitations are out, and we know who the guest star is in #4, and it has to do with like Nexus points and stuff like that. So it's going to be really cool. So yeah, just another cool issue. I like this team. I'm really liking. I'm really starting to like Sage a lot. I think she has a cool power, just like processing data and analyzing things. And she complements Forge really well. I like the two of them together. That's my favorite part of this whole series so far, is the two of them working together. So we've got our A cover right there, and then we have this Clayton Crane variant with Surge. We have this Yoon variant with the team going up against Nuclo. And we have this 1 in 25 Bjorn Barons cover or variant that we're selling for $18.99. Oh, I thought that was Deadpool. I was going to say Deadpool's done it, but no, that's Tank.
It's Tank. He's got some classic 90s shoulder pads.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, next up, another X book. We've got Phoenix #3. I really like this one. The art is so good in this series. And this follows up from the very weird ending of the previous one where Phoenix has teamed up with Corsair. They go to this planet, and it's a snow planet, and then like Asgardian Viking zombies rise from the ground.
This undead Asgardians.
Yeah, it's like, what is going on here? Well, in this one, Phoenix attempts to take them out, but she has a very unique way of doing it. She's actually going to enter their minds, or one of their minds, and figure out what is going on, while Corsair keeps watch on her body and fights back all of these. So it's a lot of action in this, but it's another one where I really like how Phoenix takes a non-conventional approach to solving a thing. But we do learn why they're there. We learn what Corsair's real mission is,
right?
Which is really funny because if you know Corsair, it fits perfectly.
Yeah.
He's such a lovable scoundrel. In this, but I would love to see his story that veers off from this, because it seems like that could be really fun too. And we get a little bit more of one of the mysterious characters that's kind of a B plot. That looks like it's going to be building up to being one of Phoenix's, maybe one of the big bad guys that she faces. But a great issue of Phoenix. I thought it was really, really fun. And we got some great variants for it. So we have a Harvey variant. And we have this Yagawa variant with the Phoenix Force versus Godzilla.
I would like to see that.
That would be awesome.
Well, I'm going to talk about Standstill #2. The first issue was great. I like this one a lot too. In this one, Riker Ruel, he is our antagonist. He's the one that has this time device on his wrist that can stop time. Well, he meets with this group of mercenaries in Pakistan about having them take out a specific target, and I was very surprised at who he wanted them to take out. And it leads to another really cool time jumping action scene, just like what we got in the first one. It's still from our point of view, where he will be in a panel 1 minute and then he will be somewhere else in the next panel. Well, I said that wrong. He'll be in one panel, and then in the very next panel he won't be there, but something will have happened. But that's how we would have seen it, because he stopped time. Obviously, we don't actually see him stop time and everything going slow. It's nothing like that. We see it how everybody would really see it. Like he's in a car, and he's being chased by a couple guys on motorcycles, and you see him in the car in one panel, and then the very next panel he's on the back of the motorcycle, and taking out one of the guys. So it's really cool the way they play with the visual nature of the time travel in this. Meanwhile, the guy who created the device, his name's Colin. He is trying to figure out how to stop whoever it is that took it. He doesn't know who has it yet. And he comes to the conclusion that he needs to build another one of these time devices, because he realizes that if he has one as well, then any time that Riker stops time, it won't stop for Colin. And he'll be able to and it applies, it'll help track him, lead him to where Riker is. So yeah, just really cool, really creative, a lot of time travel stuff. It shows everything from the perspective of the person doing the time traveling, and everything moves slow. This isn't that. This is a whole new take on time travel. And it's not like time travel back to decades past. It's like, I'm just going to stop time briefly, do what I need to do, and then restart it and everything. It's kind of like the Quicksilver scene in the X-Men movies, where he just like moves stuff and then everything falls down. It's really cool like that. So there's our A cover right there. And then we have this 1 in 20, and I'm sorry, 1 in 10 cover that we're selling for $9.99.
Next up, we've got, one of my favorite books of the week, and I wish we could just talk about this, have a separate show just for Ultimate Spider-Man, but this is Ultimate Spider-Man #9, and this was a great issue. I feel like a lot of stuff happens in this issue. So you've got Ben and J. Jonah Jameson. They are celebrating now the success of their paper, their newspaper, their news.
It's funny. It's an online news publication called The Paper.
Right.
It's strictly online.
But they're also kind of frustrated or a little like dejected that they're just reporting on Spider-Man, and they're being super popular for that. So they originally wanted to do this to kind of like look into this cabal and all the weird stuff going on. but they found their success with Spider-Man. But of course, Mary Jane comes in to reassure them, they're doing the right thing, and now people are paying attention to them. We also have Peter and Harry, who don't necessarily love what happened previously, where Iron Lad was so able to take control over their suits, and they want to get Otto Octavius's help to maybe put fail safes in there or something so that can't happen again. But this is really interesting and leads to some more speculative stuff about what might happen in the future. But you do see another prototype suit for Spider-Man that longtime fans will really like. And also, we have the Black Cat strike. Not Felicia Hardy, but her father.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Harry Osborn strikes back too hard. And we'll leave it at that. But this was a great issue. I felt like a lot of story beats moved forward. There was some action in it. And yeah, it continues to be super interesting world building. And some of the best parts of it are some of the you would think your quintessential boring parts, but the stuff with Ben Parker and J. Jonah Jameson and Mary Jane.
Yeah, that was a great scene. That was my favorite part of the book because Mary Jane was so great in that scene. She says, I know you guys don't want to write about Spider-Man, but because you did, now you have a huge subscriber base that will see the stories that you want to tell.
Right.
And like, oh, cool. So she's great in that scene.
Yeah, fantastic. I love this issue and continue to love this series. Every issue is a treat. So we've got our A cover there. We also have this really nice Ramachu variant. And we have a Wes Craig variant. I believe these are connecting. Mm-hmm. And we have a I believe that's a Carmen Carnero variant that we were selling for $14.99.
All right, well, I've got Venom War Daredevil #1. This is the Daredevil tie into the Venom War. This is a one-shot, though, so this is just like a quick one and done of what are Daredevil and Elektra up to during the Venom War, written by Chris Condon, art by Lan Medina. And in this one, Elektra is watching over Matt's youth home the way we've seen her do in the main series. She's kind of standing on the building across the street. But when she's doing that at one point, and zombiotes attack. They just like show up there because they're everywhere in New York, right? So Elektra does her best to fend them off while Matt watches over the children that are in the home. But things go from bad to worse when Matt realizes that, oh shoot, I'm here with the children locked in a bedroom, but Father Javi is down in the basement, and there's a couple of zombiotes down there as well, and he has to make the tough choice. Do I leave the children here and go save him, or what do I do? And all while that's going on, Elektra is just battling an endless wave of zombiotes. So this is a cool story. It doesn't really contribute at all to the main Venom War story, but it just kind of shows what some other heroes are doing while these zombiotes are ravaging the city. And I love Daredevil and Elektra, so I'll take anything with them I can get. So there's our A cover right there. And we have this Hans variant as well.
Well, next up, I've got NYX #3. So continuing with the story of kind of the younger mutants of New York, we find that a mutant has been murdered from some kind of like hate crime against mutants, but it's very dangerous and not a lot of people want to pay attention to the plight of the mutants and all of that. So a lot of the younger ones, like Miss Marvel and some of those, decide they want to hold kind of a vigil for this deceased mutant at the place where it happened, which I believe was a gas station.
Yeah, I think so.
But
it was a rock song. It said rock song.
Yeah. But of course, this is going to bring a crowd of mutant-hating people. That's not going to go well. Plus, Anole shows up, who I feel like he's a bit older than all of the others.
Yeah.
He's there and he wants to kind of take part in it, but he's a little hesitant. But some other mutants show up that he's very, I wouldn't say suspicious of, but he's just, where did they come from, all of that. And so he decides to follow them, and I don't want to give it away, but it looks like the return of another classic X-Men group that was really, really cool. But also, do these young mutants have a traitor amongst them? It's going to be very interesting to find out. But I thought it's a good issue. It's very It's pretty heavy with
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff going on, but also a lot of fun. The art was really good, and I like some of these classic X-Men things, like some certain groups and everything coming back for kind of a new generation. So that was really neat. So that is your A cover right there with Anole. And we also have this really nice Forbes variant, which is very classic NYX. And we also have this Lierix variant with Miss Marvel.
Well, I'm going to keep talking about the Venom War because this is Venom War Zombiotes #2. And the cover to this one shows She-Hulk, Hellcat, and Shocker fighting Zombiotes. In this issue, it's actually She-Hulk and Overdrive and Shocker fighting Zombiotes because Hellcat, she's not in the position to fight them right now. We'll say that. So they decide to hole up in the bar with no name because they say it has great defenses. But even those, they have like metal shielding that comes down everything. But even that may not be enough to stop the zombiotes. And that's actually pretty much it. Like they're just holed up in the bar the whole time trying to fight off zombiotes on the outside, maybe zombiotes on the inside. We'll have to see. But this doesn't really contribute to the main story either. It's just a story about these three unlikely allies trying to stay alive during the Venom War. But I love She-Hulk, and we no longer have a She-Hulk book, so I'll just take any She-Hulk content that I can get either. So there is our A cover, and we have this Kyle Hotz variant.
That's hot.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, I've got Deadpool Team-Up #2, continuing this Rob Liefeld series, written and drawn by him. And it continues to be just crazy as Wolverine and Deadpool have ended up in Weird World where they fight Crystar, which is funny because because the whole time it's like, no, he's trying to help you, but clearly this is that classic Marvel universe where you have to fight before you can talk, and they go all out at each other for most of the issue. But they soon do learn that Crystar is there protecting some of these dragon eggs that Deadpool needs to get this like crime syndicate off his back.
Right, yeah.
From the first one. So they go with Crystar, but of course they're in weird world, and some weird stuff's gonna happen as they get attacked by big monsters and all of that. And to get help, the his name I think is Ral Dorn, the kind of Dragon Lord guy, summons another hero to help them out. Which, if he can just do that, he should do that a lot.
Yeah, he should have done it already.
Also, they call this character. Did you read this issue?
Yeah.
They call this character a character that is an Image character's name, and I thought that was kind of funny.
Right.
Who is writing and drawing this? But just it's a fun issue. You definitely know if you like this or not. It is exactly what it sounds like. Right. It looks like this is a Rob Liefeld book that is just nonstop action and nonsense and all of that good stuff.
I think he draws a really good Crystar. Crystar looked great in this.
He's huge. I really like his there's a swamp dragon type thing in there. I thought that looked pretty cool too. Some really interesting stuff in here, and it's just kind of feels like reading a crazy comic from the 80s and 90s. Yep. So there is your A cover.
Definitely a 90s comic with Liefeld's art and the guest stars and all that kind of stuff.
Also, his Wolverine is just crazy.
Yeah.
He's just nonstop. He's quipping.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's crazy. But we've got this Liefeld variant with Crystar and Deadpool, and that's about as big as Crystar is in here, which is really cool. And we also have this Declan Shalvey variant as well.
All right, I've got Chasm, Curse of Kaine #2, and this issue starts with a really cool fight scene between Scarlet Spider and the big monster that he ran into at the end of last issue. I just thought it was really cool to see Scarlet Spider back in action again because that fight scene lasted several pages. He's throwing ambulances around and stuff. It's really cool. And meanwhile, while that's going on, Eve thinks that she has a way to help Ben with the blackouts that he's been having. And if you read the first issue, though, you saw what was causing them at the very end. Actually, I don't know if it's kind of on the cover. I don't know if you can really tell, but so she's going to help out with that, and A lot of the issue is her going through the recesses of Ben's mind, but she might not like what she finds there. So
I like the mask she uses for that.
yeah,
I thought
very
that was really
cool. So yeah, just more, with Kaine and Ben Reilly. I'm hoping that this results in a resurrection arc for Ben Reilly because I would love to see him around again. And this is the only cover we have.
Next up, I've got Feral #6. This was a quick read, but a just pulling at your heartstrings read, as this is, for most of the issue, the first perspective of Patch, the cat that got scratched and now has this form of rabies. As you watch him try to survive, and he wants to go drink some water, but then he says he can't because it burns, and he wants to eat, but then he can't bring himself to eat. This is just a form of torture reading this. It is so well done. The art is beautiful. But if you have any heart for animals, this will destroy you.
I love that you said this is a form of torture reading this. It's so well done.
It is so well done. Yeah. As Patch looks for his family, let me tell you, to top this off, he has flashbacks of when he was adopted, and originally the other cats didn't welcome him in, but then he learned to love him and they became a family and snuggling. All the while, he may end up going and attacking them. It is very hard to read, but it was so well done. Just him looking at his reflection in the water, and he's sad and confused. Come on, Tony Fleeks, what are you doing to us? But I think this was a very strong issue and very well done. So that is your A cover. We have our movie homage variant.
That's the one I pre-ordered.
Yeah, these are very cool. And then we have a 1 in 10 Tony Fleeks variant, the Virgin variant that we were selling for $5.99. And we have a 1 in 25 Maria Wolf variant we're selling for $24.99. I would really be hesitant. There's certain people I know I would say don't read this book.
Interesting. Wow.
Because it is so heartbreaking.
Traumatizing,
Traumatizing, yeah.
Well, I've got the Avengers Annual for this year here. This is the final part of the Infinity Watch storyline. All of the Stone Bearers that we've been following over the course of the series, they are all together now, but they don't all get along. But they're going to have to put their differences aside when Thanos shows up to collect the stones, which are embedded inside them, but Thanos doesn't seem to care about that. They do fight Thanos alongside Captain Marvel and Thor. I'm not going to spoil it, but this does lead into the new Infinity Watch series that's coming in December. So we're going to see more of... are they on there?
Nope.
No, none of these characters are on there. I mean, none of the Stone Bearers are on the cover, and only Thor and Captain Marvel are in this. But yeah, we are going to see more of this new Infinity Watch in a new series in December, and this leads right into that. And, we do have some variants. So there is our A cover right there. And then we have this really cool Godzilla variant. I would like to see that story. It's about the big Iron Man mech.
Yeah.
And then here is the 1 in 10 RB Silva design variant featuring Colleen Wing, who is the new Mind Stone bearer.
It's pretty cool looking. I like her blue blade.
Yeah. Well, it's like a kind of like a mental. She like stabs people in the head, but it's like a mental, kind of like Psylocke.
Yeah.
And she's able to manipulate their mind that way.
Cool.
Yeah.
Next up, I've got Amazing Spider-Man number 58. Gotta say, these last few issues of Amazing Spider-Man have been the best, probably in this entire run.
Oh, for sure. Where has this storyline been for the last 3 years?
So in this one, Tombstone has revealed his true nature to his daughter. We thought, he's gonna go after Robbie Robertson or
Randy Robertson.
Randy Robertson. He could go after any of them, but he actually is going after his daughter, which is horrifying. She manages to hold him off a little bit before Spider-Man can arrive, and then most of this issue is just a fight between Spider-Man, Tombstone, and she puts on her suit a little bit, so she's kind of Beetle in this. It's brutal. It seems like this is going to, I think, is it the next issue they said is like the most over the top issue?
They've been marketing the next issue as the most brutal fight ever in comics.
Yeah.
So that's a lot to live up to. I don't know if you can do it, Marvel, but I'm interested.
But there's a really cool sequence that happens in this that leads from the final page of this to the cover of the next issue.
Yeah.
So basically, the cover of the next issue is the next panel
Yep.
after this with dialogue and everything.
Which that's really great. Like you'll see what we mean when you read it. That's a cool choice.
They do show you the cover.
Yeah.
On the next page, like, oh, next issue.
Yeah.
But you can read it there and be like, oh yeah, it is just. You can tell this is a non-stop fight.
That was very clever and creative, I thought.
Yeah. So, cool issue. You know, I'll be happy when this wraps up and we get our next thing with the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man and all of that. But I am interested to see how this storyline is wrapped up. And I feel like, you know, can you ever bring Tombstone back after this? Because he's doing some pretty horrific things in this. So here is our A cover by John Romita Jr., who does your interiors. We've got this really nice Kevin Coley variant. Spider-Man doesn't have to read upside down. He chooses.
It seems like it could be a window shades variant.
Yeah. And then we also have this Romero Godzilla variant.
All right, well, I've got Absolute Power Origins number 3. This is the last issue of this mini-series that ties into the Absolute Power storyline. And in this one, it's really cool because Batman breaks into Belle Reve just to show Amanda Waller that he can do that. And that, you know, he does it as a show of force, basically, to say, I can do this, you have no power over me because I'm freaking Batman, you know? And this really rattles her, and she stops at nothing to find out how he did it and who he might really be under the cowl. But then there's another part of the story where her pregnant daughter confronts her and tells her that she'll have to change her ways if she ever wants to see her grandchild. But this is it's really interesting because it shows just how much Waller is willing to give up and how far she's willing to go to do what she thinks is right, which really kind of helps us understand why she's doing what she's doing in the main Absolute Power storyline. So yeah, just a cool, you know, more of a look into Amanda Waller. The Batman bit was really good though. He's not in it that much, but the effect that it has on her, he doesn't do anything. He just breaks in, makes his presence known, and then he leaves. That's all he does, and that has an impact on her. So this is our A cover right here, and then we have this Ken Lashley variant with the Suicide Squad. They are not in this, but that's a cool cover.
And I've got a few books I'm going to do rapid fire style because I did not get a chance to read these because there's so many, but we wanted to talk about them anyways because there's some number ones and some returning favorites. But first off, I've got Knights vs. Samurai number 1. I really want to read this. I skimmed through it. It looks really cool. It does have a fantasy edge to it. So very cool in there. And we do have the really awesome Todd McFarlane variant with dragons. And then I also wanted to show off, we have Werewolf by Night, Red Band number 2. And I didn't read this one because I didn't want to open it because it's not mine. So I didn't want to take the fun away from somebody and open their copy. But I am looking forward to reading this when I can. So that is number 2 of that. We also have a new book from Vault and Cody Ziegler and Ryan Lee called Goobers.
You gotta say it the way you said it on Comics on the Future. Goobers!
Goobers! This is just as gross and funny as it looks, skimming through it. So I believe this is a oversized issue as well. So if you want some fun, gross out book for the Halloween season, you've got that one. And lastly, I just want to show off this really cool variant because Witchblade number 3 came out last week, but this didn't come out till this week. This is the thank you variant for Witchblade, and is that classic cover that is the homage of the Wolverine cover with him crucified on the X. Now it's her on the W, and we are selling this for $75.
Art by Mark Silvestri. I mean, it looks great. Well, I got a couple lightning rounds too. I did not get a chance to read these, but I did want to talk about Absolute Power a little bit more with Green Arrow number 16. This is the last issue of Green Arrow that ties into Absolute Power. Not the last issue of Green Arrow, just the last one that ties into Absolute Power. I haven't got it. I didn't flip through this or anything, but I'm assuming that since Absolute Power wraps up next week, I'm assuming maybe everything about Green Arrow is going to be explained in this, why he's doing what he's doing. There's our A cover there, and then we have this Matt Taylor variant right there. And then we've also got, sticking with Absolute Power, our other tie-in for this week is Absolute Power Task Force 7, number 7, the last issue of this series as well. And this focuses on Global Guardian, who is the quote-unquote Martian Manhunter, Amazo.
This also uses a lot of superheroes from around the world.
Right.
Something that you know, I wasn't even super familiar with.
Wanna Beast is on there.
That's not him. That's his predecessor.
Oh,
which I didn't even know
that
existed.
Okay.
But yeah, pretty cool one there. And the art in that is really interesting. Plus, it has a lot of the Steve Trevor backup story. He's in a lot of this with Wonder Woman and Robin. So yeah, that one's seems really cool.
Yeah, so I hate that I didn't get a chance to read all of these, but you know, since it's all wrapping up, I'll read them on Wednesday. So there's our A cover, and we got some cool variants. This is the John Timms connecting variant. This is the mugshot variant featuring Martian Manhunter. You gotta have the Dan Mora foil variant. That's the one I pre-ordered right there. And then we have this really sort of gruesome Raja variant. Martian Manhunter looks like he's bleeding out of his eye or something. That's pretty
melting.
Gross. Yeah. And that's it.
That's all you got?
That's all I got.
Well, that was a huge show because it's such a big week for comics. So take all that information in, process it, and then go to your local comic book store or infinityflux.net or infinityflux right here, right now.
And buy all of it. Buy all everything of them. We showed, buy all.
That's what this show's about, is buying them all. No, pick out the ones that you think best suit your interests and sound the most interesting to you. Try out some new number ones. There's so many this week. Don't just stick with the regular stuff you always get. Just throw a new number one in there. See if you like it. If you do, awesome. If you don't, give it to a friend. Maybe they'll like it. Just so many good stuff about sharing the love of comics. Stay tuned for our show coming up on Wednesday. We'll be going over the books that you can order early, so you don't miss out on any of the good stuff coming up in a few weeks. And I think that is it. That is it. Thank you for sticking with us. Let us know which book you're looking forward to this week so we know that you made it this far, because this is a long episode. So just tell us which book you're most looking forward to. Yeah, we'd really be interested to see kind of what really appeals to you and what, what new number one do you think sounds interesting? We'd love to hear all of that from you. And if there's any questions you have for us or anything you want us to talk about next week on October 2nd for our next episode of the Infinity Flux Letters page, leave them down below too. We will compile all those together and answer your questions or talk about your topics next Wednesday. Yeah, absolutely. So, until next time, see ya.